Good morning, good evening, afternoon, everyone from joining around from the various different parts of the world. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today. This is JW here, SDR team lead at Entytle. And again, just want to say thank you for joining today. We're going to expect this runtime to be close to about 30 minutes, and hopefully we get some good participation and everyone gets something good out of it. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Perfect. Quick rules of the road. Please use the Q&A area for questions to the speakers. The button is at the bottom of your screen, along with the other buttons on your Zoom bar there. Please use the Q&A for asking the questions, and there's a chat button you can raise to send in any technical issues over the course of the event. The recording and this event deck will be sent out to you afterwards. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the speaker of our day, Vivek Joshi. Vivek is the CEO and founder of Entytle. He has decades of experience working on both the sides of the industrial equation. He is passionate both about all things installed base and simplifying the installed base workflows, helping give customers and OEMs an opportunity to do more with less. He is also the founder of the Industry Next community, which is designed to help industrial leaders share and learn from each other. So with that, Vivek, I will turn it over to you.
Well, JW, thank you very much. Like he said, good afternoon, good morning, good evening to folks joining us from different parts of the world. We actually have a couple of people from Europe, from the US, and also a couple of my colleagues from India on the call today. So thank you very much for joining us. As JW said, I've had many years of experience in the industrial world, and as a software entrepreneur for, I guess, almost 8-9 years, I have an interesting point of view, if you may, in terms of what happens and what makes things successful. And we've been observing certain things over the last few years, especially with some of our customers who are successful, and then maybe sometimes those of them who have not been as successful as you like. And the common theme in all of these things is that, in many cases, people are trying to achieve certain goals around growth, primarily volume growth. I'll come to that in a second. And they don't recognize or they don't realize early enough that some of the stuff that needs to happen involves transformation and change. And as we all know, change is really, really hard. And we talk about, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. But really, the point of it is that it's never too late to get started and go ahead and get started. But I think the big thing we're seeing, and we're actually seeing this a lot in the last 3-4 months, especially with the new customers coming on board, is they all recognize that the start of the journey requires also some of the data house to be in order. And we're kind of building a lot of the capabilities around that. And I kind of share with you in terms of how we're doing it. And then the simple takeaway is it's never too late to start, and so start now. So that's kind of the framework of how we're thinking about today. If those of you who are connected to me on LinkedIn, and I noticed some of those on the phone today are on this call I've been posting a lot about things that I'm seeing as I make my way across the customer universe. So the good part about COVID lifting now is that we're actually starting to travel. I met some of our customers recently, prospects recently in person. And a common observation I've made to when they tell me how the business is going is that we've seen a remarkable strength in pricing over the last 2-3 years, and especially the last 2 years. And when you disaggregate the growth that they've enjoyed, if you decompose the growth that they've enjoyed, we can come to the fact that I'd say greater than 60-70% of the revenue increase is price driven, which is remarkable actually in these last 2-3 years. But that's a fact. I've seen this time and time again. And when I asked them the corollary questions, like, great, how'd you guys do in volume? Not so well. Flat in some cases, down in some cases, right? Or maybe just marginally up in some cases. And candidly, getting volume increases done is really, really hard. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I want to make sure you understand. And when you start looking at the volume growth equation, I think people are trying to answer 3 questions. Hey, where's my stuff? What happened to it? And therefore, what do I do about it? And the fact of the matter is that these sound really simple, but these questions are really hard to answer in real life. And so that's kind of where we start this thing. And so when I start talking to people about when they're trying to answer these questions in the context of volume growth, what they recognize and what I've seen, which is why we're calling these things Transformation Thursdays, is that fundamentally, I don't think you have any choice but to change what you've been doing. Now, I see a couple of the people on the phone. Some of you are existing customers. Some of you have talked in the past. We've had these discussions with you before. And I'm here to tell you, folks, it's just something that you have to acknowledge, you have to embrace, and make sure your executive team around you embraces as well. And, yes, you want to go proactive, and that's really the end goal of what you're trying to do. But there's so many changes that you need to do along the way that I would not emphasize. I would emphasize as much as I can that you have to make sure everything works in harmony, everything works in sync in terms of all these changes that need to get happen, right? So we start talking about changes. Then the other thing we've done, which we've started noticing again, like I said, the successful to not so successful customers, what differentiates them is we started putting this framework in the context of change. We call it an aftermarket maturity framework, right? It's really a simple way to say, okay, how do people stack up in terms of the journey? And some of you who have talked in the past are candidly at level 1. You're barely, you're definitely not proactive. You're answering phone calls, you're answering emails, you're reacting to inbound requests, right? You don't really have any BI tool capability or whatever you want to call it. Your primary source is ERP data. And there's really no way to understand what's happening in the install base. And there you go from there to what I would say Nirvana, which is level 4 and above, which is, everything in a single source of truth. You've got all the intelligence you need. You're getting prescriptions, predictions, recommendations, all those things happening automatically and systematically. And what we've seen, folks, time and time again, is that very often people are at level 1 or 2 and they want to get to level 3 or 4 in a hurry, but it just cannot and will not happen as fast as you want. And so quite often what we've taken to doing these days, believe it or not, every time we do one of these prospecting calls with a customer and get an inbound request or whatever, this is almost one of the first slides I show them, saying, hey, where are you in this process, right? And when people really start being frank with themselves, they recognize that they're probably level 1, if you're lucky, level 2. If they're level 1, I just tell them directly, you know what, go work on a bunch of other stuff, including your people, skill, will, framework, your processes, and so on and so forth before you come. And only when you start getting to level 2, let's talk to Entytle, because otherwise you're a year away. And I was on a call yesterday with JW, with a company that makes meat processing equipment, believe it or not. They're a European-owned company, and they're really mandating a huge push in aftermarket. When we talked to this gentleman who's a VP aftermarket, I asked him exactly the same questions. And guess what? He was on level 1. So I told him very directly, so listen, maybe we should talk to you next year, because there's a lot of work to get done. So when you think of the transformation journey, do not short yourself in what needs to happen in terms of making this change go from where you are today, which is most of you at level 1, 1.5, to where you want to go. It's a journey. It's not an overnight thing. And I use my other saying that I always tell people is like, you know what? You're going to want to have to start doing the work sooner or later. So just start it now, right? You can't wait for things to sequence one after the other, because sequencing, serializing work actually won't work to the degree you want. You'll be on a really endless journey. So it's a very complicated. I always tell people, the true hallmark of management is the and, not the or, right? I need to do this and this versus this or this, right? Yes, priorities matter, but doing both of them matter a lot. So I think that's kind of fundamentally one of the big messages to you is it is going to be a transformation. You're going to have to step your way through the process, but it's never too late. So you better start right now. So that's message number 1. The second message is about the fact that what we've seen time and time again, and again, I'm seeing some of the names on the screen today, you all have one of these or many of these things in motion already, right? You definitely have business intelligence tools. You have a big data store, data lake. You're trying to do things with it. You're definitely trying to muck around with either Salesforce or Dynamics, trying to make it work for you. But Lord knows, you guys have invested in your own tools, which is, a huge cost that you've done. And then, of course, the trustees' spreadsheets are always there. But fundamentally, what we're trying to say is like, look, everything that you're trying to do is not exactly what you need to do this process, to make this drive happen, to make the transformation happen. And what you need really didn't exist in your mindset when you started this work, right? So what do you do next? When you start looking around this process, the biggest reason you guys are struggling with this is this picture we've seen time and time again. Believe it or not, we just kicked off a customer implementation today. And guess what we've got? In addition to ERP data, we have an access database we're getting from them. But worse, we're getting about 20 years of PDF printouts from the old ERP system, because that's how they categorize stuff. So, they don't even have things electronically. Therefore, they cannot even do any of this stuff. So this mess, these red boxes you see out here, even more magnified for them. It's insane. But unfortunately, this is not uncommon. We see this time and time again. And so unless you fix this data mess, you can't even start on a transformation. So I'm going back 2 slides ago. It's a transformation. It's going to take some time. So you're going to step your way through it. One of the first steps you need to do is get a data house in order, right? So what's interesting about this process now, in the last few months, we've seen many customers come to us with the recognition that this data house not being in order is a huge impediment to their transformation. Forget the software that you need to go do after that. If you don't get this data stuff together, none of the stuff is going to work, right? So get this data mess cleaned up. And so that's kind of what we've built, right? So some of you, again, we've talked in the past about this. There never has been a purpose-built install-based intelligence solution for people like you, right? It's all the stuff that you saw on the previous 2 pages, which is you're munging Salesforce, you're munging some ERP stuff, you're trying to cobble together some tools. So fundamentally, what we built is this install-based intelligence solution. You've seen this before. Many of you have seen the demos before. And really, if there's one thing that I want to emphasize to you, and some of you have talked to you in a few months ago, some of you have talked to many, many months ago, the biggest investment we made as a company is not just the middle box and analytics and AI that you see out here, but the big investment we made is in the bottom box called data quality engine. Many of you know, you've tried this in the past, trying to get data cleaned up. Many of you have tried different tools. There's all plethora of tools out there for data prep. But the fact of the matter remains the manufacturers are unique in the sense that you have different kinds of data models for your order entry books, for your bill of materials, for service notes and things like that. Getting all that information together is really critical. And so even though you guys might be trying to do your BI solutions, or maybe having your own data scientists do some work, without the foundational work on getting data prepared, none of this transformation will be successful. And I got to tell you, I have so many horror stories that we come across with our current customers, previous prospects, which is they've been on this journey forever, right? Because they keep thinking, oh, I can get an intern to do it. Oh, I can get an Alteryx or Trifacta and maybe try to do it together. The fact of the matter is that those tools aren't built for your requirements. You have to make sure you purpose built or you repurpose them for your needs. And there's a lot of work out there. So if I were to emphasize out here, the second takeaway in this thing is, please get a data house in order. You know it. But if you don't invest in it, none of this Gen AI, none of this other stuff is going to work. The second part, coming back to the AI word, we've been at this journey now for many years. We've been on this journey in terms of trying to figure out what's going on. And we've worked with some amazing customers over time. There's a couple of you on the call today. Thank you very much for your trust in us. But there's many people out there who have trusted us with this process. And the reason they did this is exactly why I go back to this page again. They recognize that there's no way to wait around and wait for all perfection to happen. So they started this process. So there's a lot of things going on in parallel. Remember the and word, not the or word, right? This and this, not this or that, right? So that's kind of where the process is going. So that's kind of how we're working with people. And what we've seen is this ability to get this transformation started, to get the data house in order, by the with or without Entytle. Once you have this information, there's so much amazing stuff you can do. And as we put it, the install-based intelligence gives you unlimited upside, right? I mean, unlimited is maybe an exaggeration, but gives you tremendous upside. And we've seen with our customers the kinds of things they do. You have everybody from a sales and service leader, you have a frontline person, be it service technician or frontline sales, marketing and product people are using this solution in many ways that we didn't anticipate, candidly. And then service technicians, right? One new use case that we came up with, we've always known that this is possible. We are trying to get something done for one of our customers in this notion of getting a data prepared and getting the predictions and prescriptions done, because they want to use that to drive their supply chain planning. Their backlogs are massive, their lead times a year, and they say it's because we literally don't know which customers are going to come when to us. And so we don't have anything prepared because there are lots of built to order stuff in their business. And so they said, we want to get this install-based perspective done so we can figure out how to order, what to order, when to order. Because we can understand the install base better. So, there's things, again, that I wasn't anticipating when we started this company, but there's things we're seeing out there that could be useful to you. So there's a lot of upside to you that I think you can take advantage of. And so why do we talk about this stuff in the context of transformation? Why do we talk about this in the context of investment in your data quality and data engines? Is because fundamentally where I come from, and this is exactly why I started Entytle versus doing something else, is I fundamentally believe the entire business life I've been around manufacturing is that the value of your install base is really the value of your business. There's so much gold, if you may, in the install base that is not tapped. Yet unlocking that gold is going to be massive for you. So that's kind of how we think about it, right? Our point of view. And to that point, in terms of the transformation, there's a lot of things you can do with it, right? So this kind of just shows a journey from where we came from in 2015 and 18, about 7-8 years ago when I first started this company, all the way to where we're today and where we're going tomorrow. Our vision is to really make this kind of a core part, if you may, an operating system for your install base. I mean, I have an even crazier vision of, it's like your install base automatically is the way I think about it, right? Things just happen if you do it right. And so we're now slowly realizing a vision. So when I first started this company, it was all about predictive and prescriptive. Then we really started about driving workflows and data quality. We've been integrating stuff into Salesforce, Dynamics, and other CRMs. And now we're starting to make this a collaborative platform. We've done a Teams integration. We're doing an inspection or health check, as you call it. We have a portal product we're building out. We're building a registration. The fact of the matter is all these things are part of the change you have to do. And again, when you go back, those of you who I'm connected to on LinkedIn, you'll see I've been posting stuff every day because I just have these observations and things I've been gathering over the years that I'm now beginning to make available to people. Is that all those activities that you've ignored in the past because you have other priorities are going to come bite you in the butt if you don't take care of them sooner than later. So that's kind of how we're building it. We're building out the vision systematically and fully. We're excited about what we built and what we deployed already, and I'm looking forward to kind of being able to give us a chance to win with you guys as well. So with that, I'm going to kind of stop the prepared remarks. I think we've done a pretty good job in terms of 20 minutes out here. We have this little QR code. We've been putting this benchmark survey out there. It's been actually remarkable how many people are logged in and kind of starting to enter that information out here. We're building out a database, and we're going to start making a report available to people once we get to a sufficient data set. But we've got quite a bit of data right now that are gathering. So with that, I'm going to stop. That was my prepared stuff. I noticed there's a couple of comments or questions in the Q&A box. JW, I'll let you address them if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for all that background too, Vivek. So the first one here is a little interesting. I think it's something, we get asked pretty often and we talk about a lot in our discovery calls. The question is, what are you doing with AI?
What's interesting on the AI question is, I always told people that, Entytle has been practicing capital A, capital I, and small I, and big A, capital M, capital L, and small m, small l, AI, ML for a long time. So when you think about the core value proposition of Entytle, it's just being able to, in a very cost-effective, high ROI way, identify the right customer for you at the right time. Right. And to do that, we've had to do a huge amount of purpose-built algorithms. And those algorithms are really the classic supervised learning, in terms of reinforcement training, all those things that the buzzwords that our data scientists have been using for years. So we've been practicing that almost since the time we started this company. Right. And so we've been doing that. We've done things like neural networks for propensity scores. We've been doing loyalty scoring through some other mechanisms. And so clustering, the usual buzzwords that you hear, clustering, k-means, blah, 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 all the stuff that my smart data scientists use. We've been doing that. We candidly, nobody understood it. Everybody thought it was a black box. And it's only now that people are beginning to recognize that all the work we've been doing, all the investment in technology we've done, has really been about AI and machine learning for the last many years. Now, the other part we're doing, and this is maybe for some of you might be interesting, though I'll tell you, buyer beware, it's really not ready for prime time, is we are working with a couple of our customers who have huge amounts of what I would say text data, be it product brochures, repair manuals, service notes, customer tech support notes, and so on and so forth. We're applying generative AI to it, right? If you think of Gen AI or ChatGPT, it was applied to huge amounts of public web information to start figuring out, what the next word and therefore the next synthesized statement ought to be. So we've basically been trying that out with some of our customers, with actually two of our customers who have huge amounts of data. And it's remarkable what it does for you. And those of you who have a big installed base, big tech support / field service teams, this can be actually quite useful. So we've done the little things where we've integrated Entytle with effectively, Gen AI with their data. And we're trying to answer questions like, hey, what happens when I see this symptom in a machine? What happens with this? What do I do for this? We're trying to ask these questions that may come up on tech support or service techs and make that easy. Because, very often what happens is, JW is a new service tech and Vivek's a tenured service tech. If something happens, JW is going to pick up the phone and call Vivek and say, hey, Vivek, I'm seeing this. What do I do here? And we're trying to automate that using all this collective intelligence that exists in systems. So those are the two things we're doing on the AI. One is old hat, which is we've been doing for a long time. And actually on this particular page, you can see this. We've got hundreds of millions of records on which our models are being trained, which, by the way, I can guarantee you none of you can do that because you just don't have enough data for training. And the second thing is the whole Gen AI stuff we're doing, which I'm excited by, but it's in the early days. I'm not exactly going to go talk about it for a while now. Hopefully that answers the question, JW.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great answer, Vivek. Thank you. And then one more for you to take as well. Looking to hear about how this compares with an in-house tool. Someone's considering, building their own. So they're kind of curious to understand how Entytle stacks up against something in-house.
That's a very common situation we find ourselves in, where there's always people, look, when I started this company, it wasn't like I fell out of bed one day and said, I have this great idea. Candidly, it was built on that one slide when I said, what you have doesn't work and what you need doesn't exist, because I saw that. I was doing spreadsheets. I was trying to get this business intelligence tools to work. So it's not like we hadn't, quote unquote, built something in my past life either, right? What I recognize is that there was nothing purpose built for my needs as an aftermarket or services leader. I didn't have something that I could count on to be something that answers it. So I can tell you very safely, folks on the phone, folks in the Zoom today, is that there literally is nobody else in this software community who cares and only cares about install base and everything that happens to it. I guarantee you there's nobody. So what you're getting with the buy with somebody like Entytle is a specialized purpose-built solution. What you get from your inside people is amazing domain knowledge that I simply can't get to it, right? So it's a combination. So we wind up working. We actually like it when people start trying to build their own solution, because then they recognize a few things that they need to do, but then they're also educated about the pitfalls and the difficulties of building your own solution. And so when we start working with them, things just accelerate really well, right? So I don't think it's either or, candidate JW, it's and again, right? So do your work, please. Thank you very much. And then we'll help you accelerate it stuff. Or if you haven't started, we can just help you take care of it. But then we're going to need your help in making sure we understand the context and the domain that we don't understand. I mean, if you look at my logo sheet previously, we worked with people like JCI, who's at HVAC and security. We work with Bentley, Nevada in the Baker Hughes world. We work with Xylem, which is water filtration. And we work with all kinds of companies, right? So we cannot be experts about the domain, but we are experts about our domain, which is manufacturing data, manufacturing models, and all the stuff that goes along with that. That is my position on the make versus buy, JW.
Awesome. Thank you, Vivek. Well, with that, I think we're about ready to wrap up here. No other questions for the time being. So if you want to flip over to that aftermarket survey slide to make sure everyone's got a chance to scan that QR code, take the time to fill that survey out. I think it'll really help those on the call here understand the aftermarket maturity level you're at. Hopefully this session was very informational and informative for you all. We're going to continue hosting events like this in coming weeks, so we hope to see you at those as well.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time today to listen to us. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers all. Bye.
Cheers.